I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the March 2nd, 2026 meeting of the Woodstock Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Agency. And we'll start with a roll call.
Stuart Peasley.
Bill Rorinsky and Marla and Grace are
Grace Letty.
Arla Butts.
okay, and we're missing Kathy Barrick, and we don't have Mark Parker as an alternate this evening. All right, so we cannot appoint any alternate because Mark's not on. If he joins us, then maybe we'll add him in. Action on minutes of previous meeting, February 2nd, 2026. Is there any changes that anybody would like to?
I only have one comment on item 6A, second line down.
Well, it looks like you froze.
Okay, yeah, that was the problem. All right, so I've shared the screen. Hopefully people can see. I don't know.
The second line down, it says C equals cross section. I think
Oh, I
that's
see.
probably where she was
Oh,
going.
see, okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. Dan, do you see that? Okay.
So that would just be a cross section.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't quite know what a C cross section is, so it should probably be cross section.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
So Marla looked like she bumped off. But did anybody else come up with anything else for a change?
I didn't say anything. I thought they looked good.
All right.
Yeah,
I
that
think
was-
Marla should be coming back.
If you want to get fussy, we can go down to 6B,
Let's see.
and 27 inches in height, and then there's a apostrophe after that. It's not really a big deal.
Dan's just going punctuation crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll try to wait a minute for Marla. And
I heard an echo on her voice before, so maybe
Yeah.
she's logged in twice.
Hmm.
she says, I got kicked off and I'm going to have to reestablish.
I'm pretty sure it wasn't me who kicked her off. I don't think I touched anything, but I did notice she seemed frozen.
Yeah.
All right, here she comes again.
Yep.
You with us, Marla?
Bill,
Yep.
can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I can't hear you. I have to go get some headphones. I had to open up on my laptop instead of on the main computer. I'll be right back.
Yep. Okay.
Okay, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yes,
That's,
Okay.
so you were looking at, reviewing minutes. You were looking at 6A, the second line down,
Yep.
the C equals cross section. Was
And
that
that's
what you were?
yes, that's the only thing I found wrong with in the minutes.
Okay. Does anybody have anything else?
no, they look good.
Well, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes as presented with one correction, or two corrections if you would like.
I move we accept the minutes as presented for February 2nd. As, with one modification on, as noted on, line 6.
I'll second.
A motion by Stuart Peasley, second by Grace Letty to approve the minutes of February 2nd, 2026 as presented with one correction. The C equals cross section and 6A on the second line. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
I
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain? Motion passes. Okay, moving on to citizens' comments. Is there anybody online here who would like to comment on something that is not on the agenda already? And that would be brief in nature. Okay, then we'll move on. I don't believe we have pending applications next, but none are listed.
Yeah, nothing carried over from last meeting.
Okay, so new applications, application 02-26-01, lot 8-1, Route 171, map 7274, block 45, lot 08-1 for K&G Technical Services LLC, new single-family residence in Upland Review area.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. David Held, professional engineer and land surveyor with KA&G Technical Services.
Yep.
Here to represent the application. And I'm not sure how you typically like to do this. Do you typically like to share screens, or how do you do this?
Yeah, I have the screen share up. If there's something that's not as part of your application that you would like to present, you let me know. But I'm happy to show what you're interested in showing.
Okay, yeah, this is just what I was going to bring up with the site plan. So this is an existing subdivision lot. It was approved by the town, I believe, back in 1990 as a subdivision lot, as was the one that will be the subject of the next application. And it's accessed from Route 171 by a shared driveway, which serves these two proposed lots, as well as the existing house, which you see up there on the upper side of the plan. You can see the kind of the horseshoe shape there for a portion of the driveway that's already existing. So there's no work within the Route 171 right of way. We're just connecting to the existing portion of that gravel driveway for this lot. You can see the wetlands in the rear of the property, which were flagged by Joseph Thoreau back in November of 2025. And you'll see the limits of the regulated area, and it's just brushing up against the back corner of the garage. But other than that, we're keeping the entire house out of the upland review area. But to keep things flowing downhill, we do have our septic system in a portion of the upland review area. You see it's pushed as far to the property boundary as we can get it, and it's up about as close to the house as we can get it to keep it as far as we can from the wetlands. And you can see where the proposed well is just off of the driveway. Again, try to minimize the disturbed footprint there. And our clearing limits are up as close as we can get them to degraded and disturbed areas. Keep as much undisturbed buffer to the wetland as we can. So no direct wetland impact associated with this lot. Just basically looking for the reapproval of it for single family development as it was approved for back in 1990 when the subdivision went through.
Does anyone have any questions or comments on this?
I have a couple of questions. Dave, it shows that this is a common driveway for the two lots?
Correct.
Okay, once it leaves the common driveway, it looks like a good portion of the driveway is in the upland review area, correct?
Yes, actually the whole thing is. Yep.
Yeah. So when we get to where the driveway bends towards the house from off of the common drive portion, there's John, if you can show the GIS on this for the Rosa Ball property, you'd have to go to the GIS. It looks like there's a steep hill that comes down off of Route 171, and it looks like the low spot is right near that corner. And I wondered if you had investigated whether or not there should be a cross culvert at that location so that the driveway doesn't ice over since it's going to be a paved driveway.
Yeah, so I walked around here out in the field, done the survey work on it. So
Yeah.
I didn't notice any actual low spot there.
Okay.
It's not like there's a puddling area or anything like that.
No, there isn't. But that's is that an undeveloped lot to the west east of this property?
No, that's actually already got a house on
North.
it.
Sorry, it's north of it. Sorry. The
Yeah,
Rosa
that's-
Ball.
Yeah, that's already got a house on it.
Okay. So there wouldn't be any new increases in runoff coming off that hill going towards that corner of the driveway.
I wouldn't anticipate any, no.
Marla,
John,
am I showing what you need to see here?
No, could you turn on the layer with the topo, the
Oh,
LiDAR,
okay.
and then scroll in a little bit?
Yeah, let me do a different base map also.
Oh, you got to do it over.
Yeah, I know. I was going
Yeah,
to do a base map.
Yep.
Contours.
Yeah, it'd be better without the aerial
Oh, okay.
because the aerial confuses it. Okay. So the corner of the driveway, if you scroll in, John, to where we're getting the corner of the driveway. Scroll in, keep going. See down out the hill, you can see coming from lot 8A, there looks like a low spot there.
Right
I
here.
think part of the reason it did that, it's so that area in the wall, it's kind of like sometimes at the corner of a wall, there'll be a big pile of stones in
Yeah,
the corner of the wall.
yeah,
I think there's a little bit of a pile of stones in that area. So you're getting some contours on the stone wall itself that kind of booger up the terrain model there rather than just the ground itself. But I see what you're talking about with the contours though.
see, and if you've got a paved driveway, you could end up with icing going across there. And that was the concern that I had looking at the
Yeah,
driveway design.
When I look around out there in the field, I mean, there's no evidence of like a concentrated flow pattern or
No.
anything like that.
No, I'm just thinking like when the ground is frozen and you get winter thaw like we're getting now,
Yeah.
and the rain's coming, that could cause icing across that driveway. But that was just a question whether or not you had investigated that.
Yeah.
Bill, I think because this is conjoined with the next application, which actually has work in wetlands, I think that we should not render a decision on this application at this time until we render a decision on the second one, because they have a
Okay.
common driveway.
I think that makes sense in case there's any changes required to one, it would affect the other
Mhm.
potentially.
Yep. I just have one question. Some of it comes up on this one and some of it comes up the next one. On Exhibit F, which is way up, this is just probably a minor thing, but for the Rattels, they You have an address as 1200 Route 171 and also 1200 Route 169. The 1200 Route 169, that's kind of a funky location. So is that just an
Yeah,
error or is it?
I think that's probably an error in the assessor's database.
Yeah, this is just a printout from the town. So if the error would be on our side.
Okay, because it shows up in the next application, but slightly differently. So I'm just pointing that out. It's whether that's an error or there's something else I should know. So do you want to,
Okay.
I have one more question. Do you have a
Yep.
sequence of construction? I haven't had a chance to really review this application. Development schedule, okay.
Yeah, on sheet 2 of the plans.
See it, yep, okay.
Sheet two.
Okay.
It is a little generic in nature, but I think it covers the high points.
Yep, it does. Seems to, yeah. I'd like to move to table application 02-26-01 for lot 8-1, Route 171, map 72, 74, block 45, lot 08-1 by K.A. Ampersand G Technical Services LLC to next month's meeting.
Second the motion.
okay,
Stuart
we have
Peasley.
motion by Marla Butt, second by Stuart Peasley to table application 02-26-01, lot 8-1, Route 171 for KA and G's Technical Services. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstain? The motion carries. We'll move on to application 02-26-02, lot 8-2, Route 171, map 7274, block 45, lot 08-2 for KA&G Technical Services LLC, new single-family residence in Upland Review area.
Again, David Held, professional engineer and land surveyor with KA&G Technical Services. My only goal with this application this evening is to see if you want to determine this as a significant activity and schedule a public hearing, or whether you feel you can move forward with the application as is. This is the adjoining existing subdivision lot from the last application, accessed by the same shared driveway system. There is 3,100 square feet of direct wetland disturbance in order to cross that wetland corridor with a proposed driveway culvert and get back to the building area and development site. The house itself, the septic system, the well, all of that activity is outside of the upland review area. However, the direct wetland impact for the driveway and the wetland crossing is the reason I ask, do you deem this a significant activity and desire to hold a public hearing on this?
Is there any existing cart road or anything there?
There is not an existing road or cart path or anything like that there now.
Okay,
The reason that location was chosen, if you look at the wetlands, obviously both lots are in common ownership, so there is potentially the opportunity to not necessarily have the driveway on that lot. However, that location was chosen because of the grades. You'll notice that the grade going up to the house itself is relatively steep.
Mhm,
steep enough that we need a paved driveway there to keep it stable.
mhm.
So the desire was to balance the wetland disturbance with keeping the driveway grade as reasonable as we can make it. So we chose to put the driveway as far uphill as we can to minimize earthwork and or a steep driveway going up there, which is probably more of a long-term concern than, perhaps an extra 100 square feet or so of wetland disturbance if we move the driveway to the absolute narrowest portion of that corridor.
So what is the nature of the wetlands there? I mean, is it,
So there is an intermittent water course where the pipe itself is located, and surrounding that, there's just the typical, whatever you want to call it, fringe wetlands, forested shrub wetland on either side of that intermittent water course. There is a drainage design that's been submitted with the application. You'll see from the watershed map on there that the watershed to this starts, I believe it's on the adjacent property, but it's not far up gradient. So there's a relatively small drainage area to it. You've got base flow there just from some groundwater breakout. I would say mostly from all the wetland complex you have on the opposite side of Route 171, which isn't topographically connected to this, but it's probably the same groundwater system. So you get some groundwater breakout there, which feeds your base flow. And then whatever your surface watershed is there to feed the water course during a storm event. So it's the culvert itself that's proposed is in keeping with current DEEP and Army Corps of Engineers requirements. It's going to be countersunk half the diameter. So you've got a natural substrate there within the pipe to keep the ecological conditions consistent with what's there in the water course now. And we've minimized the width of the driveway to the extent possible. We're proposing stabilization on either side of it with shoulders as narrow as we can make them to minimize the disturbance area. And again, it is a paved driveway because of the slope on either side of the wetland crossing. And that also accomplishes providing a stable surface in the event that you get an extremely large storm that overtops the driveway. It's not going to wash the driveway away and into the wetland system. It'll just simply act as an overflow weir because you've got the paved surface. There's a cross section for that wetland crossing on sheet 2 of the plans. And you'll notice there from the grades that are proposed there, combined with the proposed grades on the site plan, it's basically a level flat area at the proposed elevation that will give you 1 foot of freeboard on that pipe during a 25-year storm. So with that level area, in the event the driveway does overtop, you're going to have the flow spread out over an extremely long length, kind of like the spillway of a dam. So you're not going to have extremely high velocities, which would scour the wetlands or scour the water course channel immediately downgrade of the driveway. It's just basically going to act as a very large level spreader if you do get a super large storm event flowing through there. But you also see on that cross section the proposed 1.5 to 1 side slopes on the driveway and the riprap erosion control there so that the banks themselves will be stable as well.
Dave, Stuart Peasley here. I just have a question. I'm not familiar with the term freeboarding.
So freeboard, you design your culvert for a specific flow, which in this case is the 25-year storm flow. And
okay.
Typically you want to have freeboard, which is the distance from your water surface to the actual top of your pipe or your structure. It's kind of a factor of safety.
Okay.
So during a 25-year flow, there would still be 1 foot from the driveway grade to the actual water surface flowing through that pipe.
Okay. Thank you.
So Dave
So-
Marlebeth speaking. I have
Go
a
ahead.
question regarding the extent of the riprap proposed on both slopes. Since you're using it as basically as a kind of like a dam, and you're armoring the upstream side and the downstream side, your site plan does not show the extent of the riprap along the embankment. And that should probably be shown as to how far that protection and where you're expecting the flow to
Okay.
go over the road, over the driveway.
Yep.
That should be shown.
Okay.
Because if this is a broad crested weir, which is what it sounds like during a big storm, one that, say, like a 50-year or 100-year, you need to protect those embankments. Now, they might stay stable in grass, but with at a 1.5, what did you say, 1.5 to 1?
Yes.
You can't mow it, so it's not necessarily going to stay in grass. So I think you need to show where the extent of that protection for that broad crested weir will be.
Sure. Yep.
One other last question. In your research for this site, for the subdivision, were the wetlands originally flagged when the subdivision was processed in 1990, when it went through planning and zoning?
Yes, they were.
Okay.
They would have had to be, at least in theory.
Yeah, and the delineation is, it's slightly different, but it's essentially the same thing as what's shown on these plans.
Okay, yeah. Because I hadn't had a chance to take a look at the subdivision drawings that were on file on the land records to see what was shown then. So I thought you would have that information anyways, since you probably researched this in detail.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the approved subdivision plans showed, I think, a single 15-inch pipe there, but that was before anybody had thought of the idea of countersunk culverts or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. So what is the capacity of the culvert? What size storm will that pass without causing backwater?
So I don't know exactly what storm it will pass. It was designed to pass a 25-year storm. And the methodology I used to size that pipe was basically looking at the opening area for whatever round pipe would work, and then coming up with a countersunk design that was a greater opening area, because it is an inlet control condition there.
Yep. And
Yeah,
you're the professional engineer that did the design work?
Correct.
Yeah, there is a page of calculations there.
Yeah, but they didn't say who was the Connecticut licensed professional engineer. It just says KA&G Technical Services Inc. So I just wanted to verify that David did the design work for it.
Yeah, so my guess, just off the top of my head, is that culvert would probably accommodate somewhere between a 50 and 100-year storm without overtopping the driveway, because I want to say that the opening area for that countersunk 2-foot diameter pipe is about 25% larger than the 15-inch pipe that the hydraulic calculations support with 1 foot of freeboard. So you've got extra capacity and you've got the freeboard. So.
Unless it was clogged with debris, it should work. Then you're saying it should work fine.
Yeah.
In a large storm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. I don't have any further questions, Phil.
Okay. Does anybody else have any further questions?
Not at this time, nope.
Okay, then I would entertain a motion on this application.
I move to accept application 02-26-02, lot 8-2, Route 171, map 7274, block 45, lot 08-2 by KA&G Technical Services LLC for a new single-family residence for a driveway across wetlands to be considered at next month's meeting.
Second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Marla Butts, seconded by Stuart Peasley to accept application 02-26-02, lot 8-2, Route 171 for KA&G Technical Services for a new single-family residence with wetland crossing for acceptance for the discussion at the next meeting. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Any
Grace?
abstained?
You're muted.
Yeah, I was looking at her face.
Okay.
All right, so the motion passes. So we'll discuss this more at the next meeting.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next application, application number 02-26-03, Butts Road Bridge over Peak Brook, Town right of way, Town of Woodstock replacement of existing cast in place bridge.
So I had anticipated that Pete Parent, engineer with CHA Associate or CHA companies, would be participating and present a brief overview. I do not see Pete. So I'm happy to share whatever you would like me to. There's a whole PowerPoint in there that he had presented back in an interagency meeting in October. But I'm happy to put up whatever plans. I mean, this is a more or less in-kind bridge replacement that will need to be reviewed, I assume, next meeting.
John, this Marla Beth speaking. This application is at a site that we had a prior application back in, I want to say 2010, 2011, very early on in my involvement with the Wetlands Agency in Woodstock. I'm presuming that those files have been destroyed due to the records disposal. So those plans, I was just wondering if you were aware of those plans and what the difference is between what those plans were and these are. But you probably, perhaps Public Works knows because they would have had the original drawings. And the engineer at that time was Sil Pauley, who did the was supposedly doing the work for it.
Yeah, who is not a bridge engineer.
Yeah. So do we have the hydraulics report for this? I'm looking through the application really quickly.
I don't recall seeing a hydraulics report. Let me
Okay.
see. There's
We need that because this is a FEMA floodplain, excuse me. FEMA designated floodplain, I believe. If my memory is not failing me, which it could be, but
It says something about that somewhere down the way.
yeah. And that
There was some discrepancy or that's a state versus federal. Something about that. I don't remember the exact details of it.
it's, I believe, a state local bridge. It's not. I don't think it's a federal local bridge.
But I think there's somewhere in the floodway, there was some designation or something like that. I
Yeah. So,
didn't
well, here.
earmark it or anything.
I mean, this is not a hydraulics report, but there is a graphic relative to the FEMA flood boundaries.
Yeah, no, we need to have the hydraulics. We need to know what the capacity of the crossing is now and the capacity of what it will be when it's reconstructed, and how that sewer line, which is partly blocking the flow now, how that is handled, and how that affects the flows once the new bridge is in place. That was the problem back then, the concern back then.
Okay.
My understanding from going through this, the existing sewer pipe is going to remain. But there's another sewer pipe that's going to be installed. So, and since it looks like they show it on the utilities page, it looks like it's kind of dead ends. And I'm not sure that's intended to be used immediately. The utility page is kind of towards the end.
Okay. I was going to bring up the site map. Flood, water.
Right there.
Utilities,
You just passed it.
Yeah, I got it.
So the yellow is the proposed new sewer line.
Looks like they're gonna connect
Okay,
it
all
to
right,
the
it says,
existing,
says to removed.
yeah.
It says existing sewer structure to be removed.
So that could improve the hydraulics, because that was the problem with the old plan.
Yep.
Which was gonna be, they were
That
gonna
was too
take,
steep.
you see how the existing,
Hmm.
well, no, never mind. I need to take a deeper look, but we need the hydraulics for this.
Yeah.
They should be submitted with it.
Yep.
So we have a pre and post construction analysis of what the flows are, particularly since it's a FEMA floodplain.
So John, I want to throw something out here. They're still talking about an 8-inch sanitary sewer main. Do you
Mhm.
have any knowledge of what typically you might find in a diameter of the sewer pipe in a more populated area?
My sense is that this is a relatively, well, it's on the small side of medium pipe, I believe. But in terms of, I do not have any real understanding of the capacity that's flowing through there. I assume this is the main line that comes down from the hill, and goes towards
Yep.
Putnam. But I could not speak to the proposed or existing capacity relative to development. That we can, I
Okay,
can make a note to ask Pete about that.
Mhm.
Because here's the thing that I was thinking. So we could do this project and not dig it up again. We put in a larger pipe and increase the capacity
Mhm.
in this section, then we wouldn't be digging up again in the future if we were able to add capacity to the Putnam system. We just might want to do the transition, the reducers differently on either end.
The other question also is by putting the angles in, because they're putting the proposed sewer pipe above the opening where it's suspended now in the opening. So means that sewage is going to have to turn an angle first to go down into the existing sewer and then turn again to flow into the existing sanitary sewer. So does that affect the ability, since it'll be, rather than a laminar flow the way it is now, it'll be abruptly changing angles? Would that affect the capacity of the sewer line?
Well, typically when you talk about flow, the sharper the angle, the more the flow gets reduced.
Mm-hmm.
Even for pneumatics, if you've got a 90-degree angle, that you're going to get a significant reduction in flow.
So then the question would be is, do you stay with the 8-inch for the proposed, or do you have a larger size pipe?
Mm.
Because it's going to have to hit those angles, which means it's going to
Yep.
tend to back up. So I think that has to be addressed too.
Yeah, and the other idea would be to think a little bit ahead and put a pipe in for water, for drinking water, not necessarily to use it, but to have it roughed in already. So it could be used, because in many places where they put sewer, they also bring water. So it's just potential forward-looking thing. I don't know if it's feasible,
Mhm.
It,
what it
it
would
might
cost or anything.
it might not be, because Putnam has a limited water supply, because they take the Little River and they had to get an interconnection with I believe with Connecticut Water Company in order to get their safe yields, because they
Well,
they they didn't have enough capacity. They have
they built
the
a whole new well field down on Park Street.
Yeah, they did. But they still had to interconnect. I think the health department made them interconnect with Connecticut Water because they don't have any reservoirs. They only have wells. They have the
Right.
well and they have the river. They don't have reservoir. So there's whether or not you put in a pipe that may not have the capacity to provide additional water. So I don't know that, but it's a good thought, good question.
So yeah, I guess we would also want to see how they want to transition from the proposed new main to the existing main on the it's outside of the bridge or each side of the bridge? Because they had just showing it stopping now at the manhole, unless they're planning to drop down the manhole.
That's the drop down, the proposed manhole show it dropping down into the existing.
Mhm.
Okay,
So it wouldn't be suspended anymore. It would be above the box culvert
yeah.
rather than below. And I don't know if the change in grade would change the way the flow goes through. I think that the Water Pollution Control Authority would have to be the one that says that this is okay with them. It's a good question for us to have answered so that we know that whatever's going to get proposed is already meet the standards that they need to, so that it doesn't come back a second time saying there's a problem here. But
Yeah,
that's an engineering question.
yeah, I'm not really comfortable with that 290-degree jog in there.
Mhm.
I would rather see like a 30-degree, even 45-degree angle to meet the existing main.
Oh, you mean extend
Yeah,
the proposed pipe farther down?
yeah, extended farther down to meet it.
Oh, that's an alternative that maybe needs to be addressed by the engineer.
Bill, I'm sorry, can you express that concern again or that question?
Well, they've got 290-degree angles on one of the manholes there on the connected, and I believe from what Marla's saying, they're planning to just drop down the manhole to the existing 8-inch sanitary sewer on the right side.
Right here.
Yeah, so I'm proposing rather than do those 290-degree angles to do a gentler drop and extend it further, which would need more excavation, but to come down to like a 90-degree, I mean, a 30-degree or 45-degree angle to meet the existing line rather
What's the
than have
benefit?
that.
What would be the benefit? Because a manhole is just a way of accessing the pipe if necessary, right?
It's the
Well, it
flow
looks
in
like,
the pipe.
The flow, right? But the
but it
manhole,
looks like,
the intersection of the manhole doesn't have anything to do with the flow in the pipe, does it?
No, it's
well,
not
if
the
it's, if
manhole. Sorry, I'll be silent. Hold on.
it looks like they're dropping down the manhole for the flow, for the way it's drawn right now. Because on the manhole on the right side, there's
Oh, I
no
see.
pipe
Oh, okay. Yeah. All
extending.
right. It goes down here to here to here. I see what you're saying. Okay.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
So
And
I'd rather
you think
see,
you think you could do a hypotenuse essentially.
yeah,
Okay. All right.
of some
Thank
sort.
you. Okay. Um,
That might be a significant amount of grading. I mean, digging to get in there though.
okay. All right. I just want to make sure that I'm addressing the right thing with Pete when I reach out. Okay.
Not you front end load the funding, or you back end load it when it fails.
Yeah. I still would like to see that pipe be bigger. It just gives us potential for more capacity down the line.
Right. Okay.
Is there any other comments on this?
I'll look to see if I have any of the old drawings. I may somewhere stored, and if I do, I'll give them to you, John.
Okay. Is that relevant?
That's the old plan that came
Right.
in
But never happened. So we
that
need to have a
never
new plan.
happened.
I'm just
And
wondering what the relevance is.
I think there was some hydraulics there. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I don't.
Yeah.
I'd have to look. I
Right.
don't know.
But the hydraulics would, yeah. Okay. Okay.
Mm.
All right. So I will reach out to Mr. Parent on this. And I think you probably want a motion on this application.
Yeah, I move to accept application 02-26-03, Butts Bridge Road over Peak Brook in the town's right of way by the town of Woodstock for the replacement of an existing cast-in-place bridge for consideration at next meeting, with a request that the engineer be present to provide the explanation of the hydraulic capacity and the operation of the sewer line proposed alterations.
Stuart Peasley, I second.
Here we have a motion by Marla Butts, seconded by Stuart Peasley to accept application 02-26 -03 Butts Bridge Road over Peak Brook. I will get that. Go.
I think that's Grace.
Okay.
I didn't say anything.
No. The echo I think is coming through your computer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not
So
sure what that is.
as described in the proposed motion by Marla Butts. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstain? The motion passes. Okay, moving on to Wetlands Agent Report.
Wetlands agent report was online. I don't have a great deal of new stuff to report. We processed a bunch of applications last month and got a fresh crop this time. Worked a little bit with Stu Peasley on the FAQs that we'll talk about later. Thank you very much for doing that, Stu. And then continuing to update the plan of conservation and development. But it's been relatively quiet in the wetlands world, given that everything is under the snow.
Yeah, given all the discussion we had on the POCD and planning and zoning about development and the ideal being in South Woodstock, then that's why I brought up the issue of potentially trying to get a bigger sewer line in there, rough it in at least now.
Yeah, I have a broad curiosity about where the WPCA stands on a lot of this stuff. I think they're not necessarily on the same page as some other boards and commissions, but that's something we can discuss.
Yeah, it's just I see a lot of places, downtown Southbridge in particular, where they put a nice paved job in, and then they got to rip it up to do the gas lines, and they put another paved job in, and they rip it up to do the sewer lines, and on and on and on. Okay, John, now this online statewide inlands, wetlands, and water courses activity reporting form. Do you have any nasty words you want to say on this?
No, so it's just they're converting the form from from a hard copy submission to an online reporting form. It's fairly straightforward, I think, actually.
Okay, they're saying that we have to do it, not the
We
applicant.
as paper form changing. Who can fill out the form?
Who could fill out the form? Look at the bottom right there, authorized personnel.
Personnel. Oh, such as a member. You can reasonably verify the information is correct. While the paper form, it also requires municipal files.
It would have been nice
Yeah.
if they had provided us with
So
a PDF copy of what their fill-in form was going to have, so we would know what exactly was the information that was going to be required. Because if I'm going to be revising the application forms, there's a bunch of information that's on the existing form that's
Sure.
not going to be on the new one, the electronic one. Things like the USGS quad and I'm not sure what else is going to be changed and modified. I went online to try to look to find if they had a sample of the electronic form that they're going to use. I found nothing. And I remember
they
when
said it-
Dan was our wetlands agent, he did a review, I think, of that. And that was only in a draft form. So I don't know what the final one is actually going to look like. And it would have been nice if they provided us with what the information was going to be for that. They don't show it on there. They show the old form.
That
Say
looks like
something about the
old
bear
form, yeah.
reporting form being similar.
Some stuff is being dropped off. I remember when that review came through, Dan showed it to me and I had an opportunity to look at it. And I was not invited to provide any comment, but I think Dan did supply some comment at that time. But I think it would be worthwhile if, John, you could contact them and
Yeah,
ask them,
Kristen. Mhm.
you know, do they have the details of what the information is it's going to be, so we can make sure that our new application forms contain that information and we drop off the other information that's irrelevant now.
Okay.
Yeah, would be
I'll see
helpful.
if I can,
Kristen is a pretty nice person. Met her at the Kakiewicz annual meetings.
okay.
So
Well,
on
then,
the second page of this, towards at the top paragraph, if you look about 5 down, it says, but we asked the online form be filled out and submitted by the municipality, not the applicant,
Mhm.
to ensure conformance
Yeah.
with the regulations that require, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
that's fine. If our busy month is we're getting 3 or 4 applications, this is not the worst thing in the world.
But they
Okay,
did
but
say
it,
that we could request that information of the applicant. So
Mhm.
we could
Right.
have the applicant provide the information in, and then the agent just makes sure that it goes into the fillable form, or the
Right.
clerk,
Mhm.
whichever one you decide.
but it is an increased burden on us to process in
Mhm.
that way.
An unfunded state mandate.
Just pointing it out.
And I'm not sure for what benefit, because it used to be that when you did these reports and they were data entered in, they would come out with a status and trends report every year. Usually it was a couple of years late, but they lost their staff, so they weren't entering it into the database. The hard copies that they would get, they no longer had staff to be able to enter that data in, so they couldn't produce the status and trends report. And they used to get federal monies for that status and trends report. And now that they didn't get it, now they've got a grant for doing according to what their information is that they had a grant to create this online form, but they don't say whether or not how they're going to use that information. And collecting data and sending it in and not having it utilized for any reason, it seems like a waste of effort. So I don't know where it's going to go.
Thought that there was something in there about that.
They did. They got a
Okay.
grant to create the form.
Why on frequently asked questions, why is the form changing? And let's say move starting at pick the fourth line, moving to a GIS connected database in conjunction with the online form, similar to Deep's wildly successful bear sighting online form and database, allows for instantaneous up-to-date record keeping, provides analysis of inland wetlands data, and eliminates the needs for municipalities to mail in forms. So it looks like they're setting it up to provide data mining. That's my
Yes, and
interpretation of it.
it also eliminates DEP's requirement to have to enter it into a database when they get the hard copies. So they're doing it in a lot of ways for their own benefit, but they don't say what they're going to use the data for.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know.
Anyways, any further comments on that? We'll move on to financials. And not a whole lot changed. Any questions or comments?
Just mean
One question on the
go ahead.
budget process. John,
Yeah.
do you know where we stand on the budget process, what the town is?
I don't offhand. I would think we're probably heading towards Board of Selectmen or Board of Finance hearings from different departments, but I haven't gotten any communications recently about that. I don't know, Bill, if you, as chairman, if you received anything.
No.
Yeah, no, I think the only conversation I had with Karen, the treasurer, was about my own consulting firm's proposed rates for the coming fiscal year, but that was, yeah. I don't believe our boards and commissions have got anything formal yet.
So the contract for that for you doesn't come out of our budget in any case.
Right.
But your resources for our job comes out of that contract. Does that contract also include town planner functions as well as zoning enforcement officer?
Yes.
So it's all three functions in one, dovetailed
Yeah.
into one. Okay,
That's correct.
okay. Hmm.
So how are you
Although
feeling
I
about?
use different accents when I'm doing each job though.
How are
Zoning
you feeling
enforcement is a
about that arrangement in terms of time?
Um, I think it's doing pretty well. I mean the wild card is still writing the plan of conservation and development, which is just a big task. But in terms of the day-to-day stuff, I'm hoping, and I'm probably sticking my foot in my mouth by saying so, but I don't think we've dropped any significant and precious balls at this point. Like we're keeping at it. So
Okay. All right, any other comments on financials? So we'll move on to draft IWWA application forms and frequently asked questions.
So, Bill,
Well,
I would like to table the application stuff until I get more information about the DEP reporting form, electronic data,
Okay,
because it doesn't make sense for me to move forward until I know what information I can drop off the application forms.
okay. We don't need a motion for that, I don't believe.
No, no.
yeah, okay.
So,
Oh yeah. I can bring up the FAQs. That was a Word document, so it downloaded. It didn't open. You hang on a second. I can share.
So I have one comment. It's kind of like Mozart saying too many notes. Salieri said Mozart had a concerto that had too many notes. I think there's too many words. I don't know how to shorten it. I haven't really looked at it in detail, but it's awfully long. Is there a way it can be compressed to be less words and less words with 3 syllables? I don't know if that's possible.
Okay. Stu, you're too erudite here is the problem. We'd like you to dumb it down if you could.
Okay,
I was wondering whether or not somebody like Grace, who's not that familiar with it, could take a look at it and give her, kind of like take on it, because she would be looking at it as a novice, somebody from the outside, and might help her.
I'm happy to do that. Um, maybe Stuart and I could meet or something or talk about it. I'm happy to do that. And yes, you're quite right. I'm very good at being a novice, and therefore I can look for things I don't understand.
one of the things that I feel like I totally agree with less is more, but I do think that it's important as a instrument of service to really answer questions. And sometimes if it's too simple, then people are more confused. I don't know. So yeah, there's a balance. There's definitely a balance to strike.
Just as an example, like item 3, how do I know if wetlands exist on my property? I would take that and do that as bullets. Bullet 1, check the GIS. Bullet 2, check the land records to see if you've got any soils that have already been delineated on subdivision maps. 3, if it hasn't been done, you need a soil scientist to look at it. There's a list here.
Is that sufficient though to rely on the GIS?
I think from a standpoint of if some questions I think lend themselves to bullets, others don't. That's one that could be a bulleted list, but that's just a thought. I mean,
Yeah.
Well, you could
Okay.
word it as a preliminary check with the GIS mapping. Um, the GIS mapping shows something, then you'll need to get a soil scientist.
right.
I've had problems. My only just personal experience is that people pull out their phone and they go to a hunting app and they look at it, and you know how accurate those things are. And so, and then they totally rely on it as the basis for making decisions and choices. Um, so the accuracy of the satellites is not that great.
So you could
Well,
start
yeah.
by saying something like the lack of presence of standing water does not mean you don't have wetlands on your property,
Okay.
or something to that effect. Just because it doesn't look like wetlands doesn't mean there aren't wetlands.
Absolutely, it's really an eye opener when you do see an area that you don't think is wetlands, and all of a sudden it's labeled as it by a soil scientist. And I've also had that experience where I've seen soil scientists label or delineate property as wetlands, and I look at it and I go, doesn't look like it to me. But they're looking at the plant life
No, they're looking at the soils. They're
soils.
digging holes and they use the vegetation kind of as a guide as to where they're going to dig their holes to
Right.
look for modeling and glazation. But that is part art, part science. So
Yeah.
two soil scientists can go look at the same property and come up with a different delineation. So you kind of have to, because they're supposedly the qualified people, unless you have a soil scientist on your commission that's going to challenge something, you really have to accept what that professional says.
Sure.
Unless you have reason to believe that it's a swamp, marsh, or a bog, which it doesn't require a soil scientist to delineate a swamp, marsh, and a bog. Soil
The other
scientists
part of that,
delineate wetlands.
the other part of that is how many holes you're going to dig to nail down the exact boundary of the wetlands.
Well,
Yeah.
from what I was told, there's not an exact boundary. There's transition in a lot of the soils. So that's where the art comes in, where they decide to call it the wetlands are here or the wetlands are there. And a lot of times they'll use the vegetation. What is the herbaceous or the trees? Like certain trees will give you give you an identification where the proximate boundary is, like, ironwood,
Yeah.
the one that looks like
Yeah, yeah,
musclewood. That
Yeah.
is that is a transition plant. And so if you see that, you know that your boundary is real close to that. But if you're in a place that's mowed, a wet meadow, it's a lot harder to be able, you have to base it on the soils more than on the vegetation. So they do use vegetation to give them a guidance as to where they should be looking to dig their holes. But again, it's part art.
And from discussions with a soil scientist, they will actually put in their reports, if they're working for the state or something, the actual Latin names of the vegetation that they
Mhm.
have found, that it's that, says
Mhm.
that it's wetlands.
Mhm.
Do we want to circulate this Word version? Is everyone comfortable with using Word markup, like track changes?
Mhm.
Yeah,
So if I can circulate this around, and would encourage you guys to make some markups, unless you wanted to sort of one at a time it, and ask Grace or whomever to sort of take a more of a novice read of it. I think it's probably not super efficient for us to sort of noodle through this right now, particularly if we're going to kind of seek to simplify. I just want to know what would be the easiest way to get that feedback.
Well,
My-
I would take a look at it first and then
Okay.
resubmit it. let me see where I can go back and, weed out some of the chaff.
I just want to mention, I'm reading it here on the screen, and it's got a nice tone to it. It's, gee, we're trying to provide you with real information, and it doesn't read like a form. It just reads like good information to me, and I wouldn't want to lose that.
Yeah.
I had a positive reaction to it when I read it.
So
Alright,
then,
cool.
if that's the case, then maybe we want to look at it for technical preciseness. Because we want to make sure that whatever the information is that we give them, that we're not misleading them in any way, shape, or form.
Do we become responsible for what's in the form? Like if people act on that information, will they say, well, this is what you told me?
There's a disclaimer at the end.
But that's-
There's a small disclaimer at the end that said this needs to be confirmed and verified. But the other thing too is that I was setting myself to having 2 pages at being absolute limit.
Mhm.
And so anything we could do to make it a 2-page maximum. So 10 questions or 11 questions, whatever, and we can just try to make it simpler.
So I'm willing to look at it strictly from a technical point of view, whether or not it correctly identifies, but I won't look at it as to form, as to how many syllables there are. Just make sure that whatever's in there is correct with the statute and my understanding of what the history of the law is. And
Sounds
I can
good.
give that feedback. I can do that and track changes and send it. Where do you want me to send it to? John or to you, to Stuart? Or anyone, or both?
To both.
To both, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's totally a work in progress. So whatever people want to contribute, that sounds great. We could meet up, Grace, and or anybody else who wants to, do a little discussion on it.
Mhm.
Shall we move
Oh,
on to bylaws?
We can't meet more than 2 people without a special meeting.
Technically 2 is a meeting, but don't worry, you're not making any decisions.
Okay.
Who's gonna appeal it?
So the dates that are in this, are they linked together at all, or are they just edited as individuals?
Where are you talking to?
Are you talking about
Eddie?
the bylaws?
Yeah, bylaws.
So
Any of the
this is
dates in
I'm
here?
showing this is Marla's markup, I believe.
This is the red line version. There was a black line version that got distributed also.
I think that's maybe attached. Was that? Oh no, there. Okay,
No, this is solely the black line. I mean, the red line. This is the red line. So what's crossed out is deleted and in red, and what's added is underlined in red. So the idea was if you were going to adopt it tonight, the revised date would be today's date, which is March 2nd, 2026.
Okay, are all the dates linked together to one setting, or are they individual?
What do you mean?
You have to edit. Do you have to edit every single date?
What
On
do you
every
mean?
page at the bottom, does it say 3?
No, that's
Oh yeah, no, that's just a footer
That's a
that yeah
footer.
we would accept well I assume Marla the black version has the black line
Correct.
version just yeah.
Correct.
So on the black line version it would just say 030226 in black on the bottom as the footer. That's it. It would not have the cross out.
Oh, I realize that. I'm asking if
Yeah.
if that's through a setting in Word, so
No,
that you change one and they all change.
no,
No,
it's
no.
not.
Well,
It's typed
okay.
in.
Well, that's
Okay.
footer. That's you probably changed the footer, right?
Correct. You can change
Yeah.
the
So
footer. You
the
can,
footer would change every page.
they're not automatic
Okay.
dates. They're not automatic dates.
Okay.
I don't know. Do we need to go through these? I mean, we talked about these a little bit last time, right?
We're at a point where we either adopt them or we don't.
Yeah.
They were presented at last month's meeting, which is a
Right.
requirement, and you had a chance to look at them. So now you decide whether or not you want to accept the changes or not accept the changes. The only question that I had was under order of business. There was a thought that came to mind, since we have applications that could come in after the agenda is posted. Now, we can always amend the agenda to include those that came in after, but did we want to have that up front in the agenda itself, so that we don't have to keep amending the agenda? And one of the questions I was going to ask the FOIA people, who were supposed to come on Tuesday, but that was canceled because town hall was closed, was whether or not we could have an item in here. So you got pending applications, you got new applications, and then you got applications that came in after the agenda was posted. And would it be a requirement to have to, would it be prohibitive to add those applications in without actually citing the numbers of them? They would be assigned numbers when they were received, but we wouldn't have them in the agenda. But they would be on the posted documents, so that they would be there, but they would be discussed under applications received after the agenda was posted. But that doesn't have to go in now. That could, because they didn't meet, and I can't ask them that question until after we decide what we're doing with the bylaws.
You
I
could
would
call
like
it,
how,
you could
Huh?
call it you could call it a different category.
yes, it would be, but because we have our order of business for our agendas published in our bylaws, then if we're going to have a section called applications received after agenda posted, we'd have to amend the bylaws to do that. But we can do that at any time. We don't have to do that now,
Why would you just not include them under new business?
because you wouldn't know that they would not be. Anytime you do new business, you identify the application number. Like tonight's agenda, you had section 7, new applications, 7A, 7B, 7C. Those were the 3 new applications. But then if you had an application that was received after the agenda was posted, you don't have a spot for it really. You couldn't call it 7D because there is no 7D. But if you
How
had it
about,
as item after the agenda was posted, application after the agenda was posted, it could be an 8. You know, this is,
how about late applications?
It's not statutorily late. It's just after the agenda.
yeah, it's after. So like if the agenda gets posted on Wednesday instead of on Thursday, you know, for a while they were being posted on Tuesday. And then there was like 2 days that applications could come in and still be required to be considered. And then they might come in on Monday, but technically they're not statutorily received if they're in wetlands or watercourses, but they could be reviewed as a wetlands agent approval and shipped off to the agent to render decisions, so they don't have to wait a month. Or a jurisdictional ruling. There's no statutory requirement on receipt dates for jurisdictional rulings. So you could have a jurisdictional ruling that comes in on a Monday, and you may want to include it as an application received after the agenda was posted. It doesn't get a statutory receipt date, but it could be considered and made a decision on, or it could be, put off and tabled to the next meeting because you wanted more time to look at it. That's all I'm saying, but that we can do that at a later time. We don't have to do that now. I would really like to ask the FOIA people what their opinion was about, having that kind of thing put in. Or would we have to, every time we get a new application after the agenda is posted, that we have to amend the agenda to include that application for discussion? That's all that does.
Personally, I think everything's preliminary myself until I get the Thursday one. So that's just the way I look at it. It is, can be kind of confusing to have the preliminary one also, but it could be helpful also because you know what's coming up.
For you, as the chair, it makes a difference because you're the one in control of the agenda, technically.
Yep.
And but if it's sent out to everybody and given to the town clerk on Tuesday, and then a different one goes out on Thursday, does the town clerk have to deal with the Tuesday one? How does the town clerk deal with the one that was given to her on Thursday? I mean, on Tuesday. So that was another question I was going to ask the FOIA people is what happens to those agendas that get revised? Is the town clerk required to maintain the first one before it was revised? I mean, but those are questions to ask FOIA, and we don't need to put that one in here either. So
Okay.
I'm of the opinion that I would like to see the secretary responsibilities changed. And that was added in under
Page
item
2,
page 2. Yep.
yeah, 5E.
Yep.
The only thing I have about that, Marla, is whether you'd want to put an out in there that particular duty could be assigned to somebody else besides the secretary.
Well, the only reason why I put it in as a secretary, because the only function the secretary has right now is to fill in as the chair when the chair and the vice chair aren't there.
Mhm.
And that's the only function that the secretary responsibility. So why would you even have a secretary function?
I
Yeah.
yeah, I thought mine, so the alternatives are making something up for the secretary or eliminating.
Eliminating it.
Yeah.
Now, other commissions that have their funding for their staff in their budget, they have a treasurer, like Thompson. Their funding for their, or at least it used to be, their funding for their agent was in their budget, the commission's budget. And so they had a treasurer who could keep an eye on the way monies went in. But we have so little money, it doesn't make any sense for us to have a treasurer. That's
What
basically
about
to handle.
what about the clerical function?
What about it?
In terms of
Well-
like recording secretary?
Yeah, I mean, the due diligence of overseeing we've had, fortunately, we have a good recording secretary now, but we've had people in the past that weren't as good, and so I mean, basically all of us sort of pitch in and see, if we see spelling errors or punctuation or things like that that are really stand out, but Marla does a great job because she has a lot of background and a lot of knowledge that the average secretary wouldn't have.
But
So
I'm not
we-
a recording secretary. All I'm doing is making sure that what documents need to be filed are filed with the town clerk, making sure that the agendas are posted in accordance with FOIA, that kind of thing.
Don't you think that's kind of important function?
Yeah, I do think that's an important function.
Well, just as you have a provision for if the chair and vice chair are absent, is there any provision just to give you an out, Marla, if you can't do a particular meeting, someone to back you up?
Well, if there is no chair or vice chair and I can't make it, you can't get a quorum. You have to have 3 for a quorum. And if 3 are missing and we only have 1 alternate, we don't have 2 alternates, it means you don't have any officers. So there's nobody to appoint somebody as an alternate. So you can't run a meeting with 1 regular member who is not an officer and 2 alternates. It just, you won't have a quorum. You won't be able to have a quorum. That's why the secretary gets to fill in for the chair and the vice chair in case you both can't make it. Bill, you were suggesting there needed to be an out. I don't know what you mean.
No, um, a way of having that particular function either assigned or adopted by somebody else. But you're saying there's not much of any other function for the secretary other
Correct.
than doing that.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah.
And the only action that the secretary takes is to notify you and any agency staff, whether it's the agent, so that an action could be taken to correct the problem.
Yep.
So it's not that the secretary is actually correcting the problem, the secretary is identifying the problem and leaving it up to the chair and or the agent or the powers that be, the staff that's there to correct it.
Well, then it's probably okay that the way it's presented right there, right now,
Mm-hmm.
unless anybody else has any other comments. Is there any comments about any other parts of the bylaws?
There was
I don't have any.
There was a question that was raised regarding our schedule, page 4, meetings. The first paragraph was added because I actually did a little research to find out about when things had to be submitted by, and that's what I came up with from the statute. So I think this is adequate to meet the requirements of the statute. Whether or not we identified the following January, including so that we have, like, rather than 12 months, we have 13 months identified. That's not real critical. We've been doing it that way in the past, only because a lot of times we weren't submitting our schedule until our December meeting. This way we set it up in November, so we don't have to worry about that. And that's just a holdover from when Tina LaJoy was the clerk for the commission, when it was in the building office, when the wetlands agent was the building official.
So also in item B there, adding the word generally gives us a window to be able to change the time, I would presume.
Yep. So say you come up in November and you guys decide that we don't want to hold it at 7 o'clock. We want to hold it at 6:30. We could submit a schedule to the town clerk that says 6:30 and not be in violation of our bylaws. It gives
Okay,
you,
but we would only be able to do that when we set the schedule for the next year. We can't do
Correct.
that on the fly.
Correct.
Okay.
In November.
Yes.
Yeah. So I
They
don't
don't
have any
say-
other questions.
They don't say, when you look at the comment, when I copied from the statute, they don't say what schedule means. They don't say if that requires a time, or does it just require a date, or does it require a date and a time? So I was unclear to me whether or not that law required us to have a specific time to the Secretary of State, that we just had to give the dates and the location. I don't know. It's unclear to me for that, but that's why I wrote it that way.
Would anybody like to make a motion on this, or is there further discussion at this point?
Well, since I did the most work on it, I'm going to move to approve the changes to the bylaws as presented to the agency in the red line version, converted to a black line version where all of the edits have been accepted for posting on the town's webpage.
Second, Stuart Peasley.
Okay, we have a motion for Marla Butts as stated and seconded by Stuart Peasley to revise the wetlands and as presented at this meeting in the red line version to be converted to the black line version upon acceptance. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 I,
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain? The motion passes. Okay, item F, discussion of development design at 33 Meehan Road. John, if you could put the last page up, that if you've got it handy.
Is this what you're looking for?
Yeah. So Joe Palulik approached me at a previous meeting with PLCD about this, and he was not happy about the way that we approved this because the driveway on the bottom there looks to be relatively steep, and it's proposed as was proposed as a gravel driveway. And he thought that there's going to be issues with water at the bottom where it intersects with Meehan Road. So I'm just bringing this up to ask if this is something that in the future we should be aware of and perhaps look at it a little more seriously, because the town may, or there might need to be some drainage work done by the town on the road, and potentially including a pipe under the road. So I'm not sure whether we should have included some of that, but like I say, Joe brought it up and it's a reasonable question, because we said there was no wetlands impacted, but the impact has not been made yet. The impact will come as a result of the construction.
So my question, Bill, would be back to Joe Palulik, is what wetland or watercourse would be affected? I mean, obviously it could be a town road that could be affected, but we're responsible for wetlands and watercourses. We're not responsible for the road. Now, if the town has a road ordinance and there's concern about erosion into the road, that should be handled by the authorities that grant the driveway permit, if there's a driveway permit required. And I don't know what the requirements are in Woodstock for driveway accesses, what kinds of approvals they have to get.
The town highway foreman, Jason Scranton, is the one that reviews driveway, new road cuts.
Mm-hmm. Is he limited to a pad, just an apron, a paved apron to the road? Is that all his jurisdiction goes to?
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of location and sightline, he's
Yep.
Yeah.
So this was a lot of free split?
No, this was a subdivision.
Then it's planning and zoning's responsibility.
Right.
They're the ones
No,
who have
and-
responsibilities over erosion and sediment control.
Yeah, and Joe was at those meetings.
Yeah. So they should have dealt with, if they were concerned about erosion and sediment control affecting the road unless they could identify a wetland or water course that they thought was going to be affected, we wouldn't have jurisdiction over it, but they certainly do.
This is there, well, hold on, let me bring up there, is it 33 Meehan?
Uh,
I
Yes.
think so.
Yes, 33 million.
All right, I'm just gonna take a look at here if there happens to be a wetlands across the street. There's not really. I mean, there's a wetlands in the distance to the west, but
Yeah.
that's
this
probably a
driveway
mis-
would come out right over here. This would, oh no, it would be around here would be the
Yeah,
driveway.
those wetlands are mismapped. I mean, you're looking at a general soils map, but judging by the topography, I
Yeah.
would say that there's a branch that goes up closer to the road. If you where
Right
your
in here?
hand, no, go across the road,
In here.
down a little more,
Yeah.
down a little, right there.
Oh, right in here. Yeah.
That's probably got poorly drained soils in it based
Yeah.
upon what the topography is telling me.
Yeah. I think that's
So
right.
that's what he's thinking probably. Yeah,
Well,
I
my thoughts are that it does come down to the authority having jurisdiction. But
Mhm.
if there is some question, then we can just point them in the right direction and say, listen, that's not ours, but we would suggest that you talk to the licensed engineer that made the drawings and the relevant agency in this case would be planning and zoning. But we shouldn't like try to dodge it, but just point them in the right direction.
So the comments that
that's
we
my
gave
opinion.
back, so the comments that we could have given back to planning and zoning is if we looked across the street and thought that there was a potential for a problem. I think the driveway is going to drain off, looking at the map, that the proposed driveway is going to drain mostly off the hill through the land before it hits Meehan Road, because you got that
Mhm.
Yeah.
sharp turn, and that's a lot flatter. So
Yeah.
I don't see that the erosion, there could be erosion problem, but we would have to take it after the fact if it affected the wetlands across the street, because it's way too far. Our upland revere is only 100 feet or
Mhm.
125 if you consider it a water course.
Yeah.
So I don't think we had jurisdiction to do that.
Okay, I'm just bringing it up to clarify because he questioned why we didn't do something about that. And
Didn't have
um,
jurisdiction.
Yeah.
It's a really good
and
reason.
just wanted to be clear about that. So,
Hmm.
okay, thank you. Number 9, citizens' comments. I don't believe we have any citizens to comment to us. And I guess unless there's any other business that somebody would like to comment on or bring before us, then I guess we could entertain a motion to adjourn.
Question, Bill and
Yep,
John,
yep.
where do you stand on the plan of conservation and development? Because I know you sent me a draft. I started working on it and then I got waylaid and haven't finished, but I did have some comments that I wanted to get back to you before the next meeting. I guess you said it's on the 5th.
The next meeting is Thursday. Yeah, we're gonna go through
Yeah.
the second half of the develop section. And
Okay.
then begin discussion on I think it's called enjoy.
Yeah.
And but that
Okay.
yeah, but yeah, so we're still multi-months out from
So, okay, so I still have time to get those comments to you guys then.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I'll work on them, because what I'm doing is I'm writing up comments, using Adobe Acrobat allows you to highlight and put comments in. So where I
Yeah.
think there should be something changed, or I think something should be added or whatever, I'm putting in as comments and just asking, this might be thought about, that might be thought about. All right, so I'll try to get that to you in the next 2 weeks if I can.
Yeah. The only other thing I could say is that some of the information that we originally proposed has been broken up into different areas.
Mhm.
So it won't all appear in one wetlands area.
I understand.
You know,
I understand.
you have to go through 40 pages sometimes to get to a different section. Because they
Right.
apply it the way they apply to different sections.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll send a PDF with the comments to both you and John, if that's
Yeah.
okay.
Thank you.
That's
All
fine.
right. All right. I move to adjourn.
Second, Stuart Peasley.
Motion by Milo Butts to adjourn, second by Stuart Peasley. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? And the motion carries and the meeting ends at 8:38 PM.